No, it's a good point, and it's a universal point, because every ego feels misunderstood, and no one is understood, because another ego can't understand who you really are. The problem is that other who didn't understand you installed the ego in you that feels misunderstood. Okay? It's an artifact of their misunderstanding. So the real problem is you don't understand yourself, because those ego thoughts are not actually your thoughts. They are an algorithmic process that is a robotic operating system that is an attitude toward the other that was established by the other, and it is just repeating the same wound, the same trauma of alienation from yourself, from the real. And the only way you leave the imaginary and the symbolic that your thoughts are creating is to silence them. And then the real is suddenly present. Okay? All words do is obscure the real. And you cannot know who you really are until you have silenced the mind. And then you will feel the energy that emerges from the deeper self that you have never known. And by surrendering to that, you will be shocked at who you really are and what you really are. And the ego will be shattered. And then indeed, no one will understand you, but it won't matter, because there is no other. All of those others are also just robotic operating systems. But the real is actually the oneness that underlies the multiplicity. And once you are attuned to that, then you can laugh at all of the absurdity of the ego's misfunctioning and incapacity to relate authentically, and the pretense and let's say, well, the inauthentic relations that people have, and because of their own ignorance of who they are and who is the other and what is real, what is the truth. And once you have broken through that barrier of the illusory ego self as being what you are, then what remains is infinite, spacious potentiality, in which ever new aspects of the archetypes of the superconscious that your consciousness contains and can download will be actualized. And as they do, you will discover more and more expansiveness of your multiple frames of reference in which you can see reality multidimensionally and omnicentrically, not just from an egocentric view, but what is everyone perceiving, and what is the actual information basis of the unfoldment of the phenomenal plane in this planetary noosphere. What is the actual underlying and teleological destiny of what is being expressed, both in the media and in all of the various ways in which the logic of human intentionality is being expressed in the world, including the most destructive. And you'll be able to see it from a beyond in which the perfection of its returning to the source of all that appears in the real that never appears and never disappears becomes the truth of who you are. And so you begin to merge back fully, completely into that unmanifest self and lose all investment in the phenomenal world and in others, because there are no others. And it's that liberation from the plane of duality that brings infinite bliss and the grace of liberation. So that's what will happen. There's no limit to how far your consciousness can ascend into the supreme level of reality that is pure consciousness in the Godhead, if you want to put it in those terms, because that is what you are. And but to do that, you have to let go of all the beliefs that you're a human who isn't understood, and you have these and those kinds of attitudes and reactions and desires and fears. All of that is part of an operating system that you've outgrown. You have to delete it in order to discover the truth.
Thank you. That was powerful. Just to this is this right in assuming, or is this for me to say that the source of the thoughts being the way they are structured as words, structured as a conversation, as an attempt to express to an imaginary other, is it that desire need to be understood that is underlying that? Is that a correct assumption, or is that for me to...
No, that's all that is a defense against loneliness. So you've split your mind into these two that have a dialogue, but you're not two selves, but there's a fear of being alone. Okay, so being misunderstood is right at the precipice of being rejected and abandoned. And so the inner child that's holding on to a dialogue with the superego or with some other who you need to know you and understand you and appreciate you, all of that comes from a very primitive level of the consciousness in which there is need. And then demand, you must understand, listen to me, right? All of that comes from chakra 1, 2, and 3. You want to get beyond all of that. So there is no reason to hold on to a split mind in which there's two of you or more having these dialogues or conversations. All of that is fantasy. And let go of all of those nodes of consciousness that are simply dissociated fragments of an ego that will then never allow you to transcend into the wholeness of your being. So until all of those voices are silenced, you cannot encounter the Godhead.
Thank you.